Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be looking at some stuff that could be a little bit controversial.
Yeah.
We've got excerpts from this video about the pharmaceutical industry and medical practices.
Okay.
And, there's always a lot of talk these days about, potential conflicts of interest and biases within healthcare. This video really seems to get into, like the nitty-gritty of it.
Right into the heart of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what struck you watching this?
Well, one of the things that I found most striking is how much it echoed a warning from President Eisenhower.
Oh, wow.
Way back in 1961.
Okay.
In his farewell address, he actually cautioned against public policy becoming the captive of a scientific technological elite.
Wow. Captive of a scientific technological elite.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, it does a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And, I think that...
How did that play into what we're looking at in this video?
Well, the video explores whether we're really getting objective, unbiased medical advice, or if there's this really undue influence from powerful industries and, especially pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
And the way they really get into this is they tell the story of a guy named Tony Royal.
Okay, Tony Royal.
Yeah.
What happened to him?
So Tony had a heart attack, and he was prescribed statins.
Okay.
Which is, pretty standard treatment in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
And initially, the statins really helped him. They got him through that, acute phase of his heart attack.
Right.
But long term, he started experiencing some pretty nasty side effects, fatigue, erectile dysfunction, brain fog.
Wow. So like really debilitating stuff.
Yeah, his quality of life really took a hit.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, and so this is where the whole concept of number needed to treat comes in, or NNT, as it's often called.
Right.
And this is, I think a really important thing to consider when you're evaluating any medical treatment, but particularly ones that have potential side effects.
Yeah, for sure.
I did.
So yeah, I've heard of NNT, but I'm not sure I totally understand it.
Okay, well, so basically what it tells her is how many people need to take a drug for one person to actually benefit.
Okay.
Like, for example, for statins in heart attack patients, the NNT to save one life is 83.
Wow.
So 83 people need to take the drug for one person to actually
see a benefit of not dying.
Yeah. And to prevent another heart attack, it's 39.
Oh,
so that's still
a lot of people.
Quite a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah.
Taking a medication and maybe not seeing a huge benefit from it.
Yeah, so it's more complex than just like, take this pill, it'll help you.
Yeah,
it's more to consider than that.
Exactly. You need to weigh up the potential benefits against the potential risks.
Right.
And given Tony's side effects and the relatively low statistical benefit for someone in his situation, he decided to explore other options.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
So what did he do instead of the statins?
He did a complete lifestyle overhaul, focusing on diet and stress management.
Right.
He went for this kind of combination of a ketogenic and Mediterranean diet and, incorporated stress reduction techniques to his routine.
Wow. So like really taking ownership of his health.
Yeah, he really did. And I think that really highlights a key point that this video keeps coming back to, which is the power of lifestyle interventions. Yeah. They're often overshadowed, by this focus on medication.
For sure.
But as Tony's story shows, they can be incredibly effective.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So why do you think if lifestyle changes can be so beneficial, why aren't they given more attention?
Well, that's a question that the video really grapples with.
Okay.
And they feature this cardiologist named Asim Malhotra, who was actually involved in a campaign called Choosing Wisely.
Okay.
The idea was to promote lifestyle changes alongside medication. But when Malhotra started publicly questioning the overuse of statins and advocating for lifestyle interventions as a primary approach, he faced significant pushback.
Pushback from who?
It's not entirely clear, but the video suggests that some of the resistance came from people and institutions with ties to the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah. Interesting.
It highlights, for example, that the Royal College of Physicians received a significant amount of funding from Pfizer, the maker of Lipitor, which is a very widely prescribed statin.
Wow, that does raise some eyebrows for sure.
Yeah, it does.
It makes you wonder if some of these medical recommendations are truly objective or if there's financial incentives at play.
Yeah, that's a very valid concern.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that the video encourages us to think critically about. You know,
All right.
It's not about dismissing all medications or distrusting all doctors.
Right.
It's about being aware of the potential for bias and seeking out a variety of perspectives.
Right. It's about being an informed patient.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And this also reminds me of something else that was mentioned in the video. Yeah. This whole idea of the demonization of saturated fat.
Yeah.
And the rise of ultra-processed foods.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell me more about that.
Well, so the video discusses how Asim Malhotra early in his career actually challenged this idea that saturated fat was the main culprit in heart disease.
Interesting.
You know, he argued that sugar was a much bigger problem.
Okay.
And he pointed to the rise of ultra-processed foods as a major contributor to the obesity epidemic.
So he was really going against the grain even back then.
Yeah, he was.
How did the video define ultra-processed foods?
Well, they use this thing called the Innovier food classification system.
Okay.
And it's basically a way to clarify what they mean by that term.
Okay.
And so think about it this way. An apple is unprocessed.
Right.
Applesauce is processed.
Right.
And an apple-flavored fruit roll-up is ultra-processed.
Okay.
Right.
Got it.
So it's really about how much a food has been altered from its original state.
Right.
Ultra-processed foods are basically these manufactured edible substances that are just loaded with, added sugar, unhealthy fats, and artificial ingredients.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And how common are these foods in the average person's diet?
Well, according to the video, they make up a whopping 57% of calorie intake in Britain.
57%? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's more than half of what people are eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really shocking statistic.
It is.
It makes me wonder how is that affecting our health?
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of, excessive medicalization.
Right.
The video also mentions this, the British Medical Journal's Too Much Medicine campaign.
Yeah, too much medicine.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so this campaign raises concerns about the potential over-medicalization of our society.
Okay.
And one of their key focuses is this expansion of pre-disease categories.
Pre-disease?
Yeah, like pre-diabetes and pre-hypertension.
So you're not even sick yet.
You're not sick yet, but you're on the road to it.
Right, you're at risk.
And so instead of addressing the underlying causes of these conditions, we're often really quick to medicate people who might never actually develop the full-blown disease.
It's like we're medicalizing risk itself.
Yeah, it is.
That's a little scary.
It is a bit. And it ties into this broader question that the video is exploring.
Okay.
Are we relying too heavily on pharmaceuticals as this first-line solution?
Right.
And kind of neglecting the importance of these lifestyle factors that we were talking about.
Yeah, for sure. So we're putting out the fire, but we're not really addressing why the fire started.
Exactly.
Right.
And, to illustrate this point, the video goes into a really powerful example of pharmaceutical misconduct.
Okay.
The Vioxx scandal.
Oh, yeah. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. So John Abramson, a family physician, discovered that this prominent article published in the New England Journal of Medicine about Vioxx was really misleading.
Oh, wow.
It downplayed the drug's severe adverse events. And it actually highlighted these relatively minor gastrointestinal benefits.
Okay. So they were downplaying the risks and highlighting the minor benefits.
Yeah. Basically.
Why would they do that?
Well, it turns out that the journal had received a substantial amount of money from Merck, the maker of Vioxx, through reprint sales.
Oh.
So they were essentially profiting from promoting a drug that was later found to be really harmful.
Wow, that's a blatant conflict of interest.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, what happened to Merck after that?
Well, they ended up facing billions of dollars in fines and settlements.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. None of the executives involved faced any personal accountability.
Wow.
And even though the FDA was aware of this misleading information, they didn't take any action to correct it.
That is unbelievable.
It is.
It makes you think, like, if that could happen with Vioxx, what else could be happening?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the tip of the iceberg, potentially.
Right. And it just makes you question the whole system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's really what the video wants us to do. It uses the Vioxx case as this warning sign that, there were these powerful forces at play in the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
And sometimes profit is prioritized over patient well-being.
It's pretty unsettling, to be honest.
It is.
It's like, are we just pawns in this game?
Yeah. I think that's a very valid concern.
Yeah.
And I think the video really delves into this even further. when it starts to examine the financial ties between pharmaceutical companies and various players in the medical field.
Right.
Medical research, medical journals, even medical regulators.
So it's not just about individual doctors being swayed by pharmaceutical reps.
No.
It's a bigger issue.
It's a systemic issue that runs much deeper.
Yeah, the whole system.
Yeah, and the video suggests that this financial entanglement creates a system where research is often biased in favor of drug companies.
Okay.
Journals might prioritize profits over publishing really objective science.
Okay.
And regulators might be hesitant to challenge the industry that's actually funding them.
Right. It all goes back to the money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's pretty bleak.
It's not a very rosy picture, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like we're caught in this web of financial interests.
Yeah.
And then the video talks about this guy, Woody, right?
Yeah, Woody.
Tell me about him.
So Woody was prescribed Zoloft for insomnia.
Okay.
And he died by suicide just 5 weeks later.
Oh, wow. That's terrible.
Yeah, it's a really tragic story.
Did he have a history of depression?
What's really disturbing is that he had no prior diagnosis of depression. Yeah. And they were using Zoloft off-label for insomnia.
Wow. So it wasn't even approved for what he was taking it for.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that really highlights the need for, informed consent.
Yeah.
And the potential dangers of downplaying side effects.
Yeah, I mean, if his doctor had explained the potential risks, would he have made a different decision?
We can't know for sure, but
it's possible.
It's possible. Yeah, and I think his story underscores the importance of having these really open and honest conversations with our doctors about the potential risks and benefits of any medication we're prescribed.
Yeah, for sure. And it also seems connected to this larger issue of antidepressant overprescription.
Yes, absolutely.
That was brought up in the video, too.
It was, and the video expresses a lot of concern about the overprescription of antidepressants, particularly for things like, sleep problems, anxiety, pain.
Okay.
And it specifically mentions the case of paroxetine, where data on suicidal thoughts in young patients was allegedly concealed.
Concealed by who?
It doesn't explicitly say, but it seems to be implying that the pharmaceutical company involved may have downplayed or hidden the risk associated with the drug.
That's really scary.
Yeah, it's very worrying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it suggests that, we might not always be getting the full picture when it comes to the safety and efficacy of certain medications.
Right, we don't know what we don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this leads us to another controversial drug that's discussed in the video.
Okay.
Aduhelm.
Aduhelm.
Yeah, the Alzheimer's drug.
Yeah, I remember there was a lot of hype about that.
Yeah.
Was it as effective as they claimed?
Well, the video raises some serious concerns about Aduhelm.
Okay.
They point out that the drug's efficacy is limited and the cost is exorbitant.
So not really effective, but super expensive.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And they suggest that the media coverage of the drug might have been a bit misleading, potentially overstating the benefits.
So kind of like another case of overpromising and underdelivering?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And the video criticizes the lack of transparency in the research and approval process for the drug.
Okay. Lack of transparency. How so?
Well, for example, the data didn't include a breakdown by sex.
Okay.
Even though women make up 2/3 of Alzheimer's patients.
Right.
And, later on it was found that the drug's effects were actually less significant in women, but this information wasn't included in the drug's labeling.
Wow. So they had the information and just didn't include it.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It is, isn't it?
Why wouldn't they include it?
Well, the video kind of questions why this crucial information wasn't readily available.
Right.
And it suggests that it might be because it could have hampered the drug's profitability.
So back to profits over people.
Yeah. I think that's a recurring theme here, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's pretty disheartening.
It is.
But, the video doesn't end on a totally doom and gloom note, does it?
No, it doesn't.
They talk about Dr. Gupta and his work in India, right?
Yeah, they do.
Tell me about that.
Well, so they highlight the work of Dr. Satish Gupta, who's doing this really incredible work in Mount Abu in India on reversing heart disease through lifestyle intervention.
Reversing heart disease?
Yeah, not just managing it, but actually reversing it.
That sounds almost too good to be true.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a really powerful testament to the body's incredible capacity for healing when given the right conditions.
Wow. So what's the secret to his success? What's his program all about?
Well, his program focuses on 3 key components: a high-fiber vegetarian diet,
Okay.
brisk walking,
Okay.
and a specific form of meditation called Raj Yoga meditation.
Wow. So it's really a holistic approach,
Yeah,
addressing diet, exercise, stress management.
absolutely.
And what kind of results has he seen?
Well, the results are pretty astounding, actually.
Okay.
Angiograms, which show images of blood vessels, revealed significant regression of blockages in the coronary arteries of his patients.
Wow, so their arteries were actually clearing up.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It really highlights the potential of lifestyle interventions to not just manage disease, but to actually reverse it.
Yeah, it's like a whole different way of thinking about healthcare, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so different from what we typically see, in Western medicine, where it's so often focused on pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes you wonder if lifestyle interventions can have such a profound impact on health.
Yeah.
Why aren't they more widely promoted and integrated into healthcare systems?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's like, why are we making this so difficult?
Yeah.
I guess that's something we can explore further in our next part.
Let's dive into that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's almost like we've stumbled into this weird paradox, right?
Yeah.
Like, on one hand, we have these incredible medical advancements, life-saving drugs, cutting-edge technology.
Right.
But on the other hand, it often feels like we're kind of missing the forest for the trees.
Right.
Like we're overlooking the power of these simple, fundamental lifestyle changes.
It's like we're so focused on putting out the fire with medication that we're not even thinking about what started the fire in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think this leads us to this really crucial question that the video poses.
Okay.
Which is, how do we empower ourselves to make informed decisions?
Right.
In a system that can often feel opaque and potentially influenced by profit?
Yeah, that's a big question.
It is.
Where do we even start?
Well, I think it starts with critical thinking,
Okay.
We need to be skeptical consumers of medical information.
So we can't just blindly accept everything we hear.
I don't think so, no.
From doctors or from pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's about doing our research and questioning recommendations and really understanding our options.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think part of that involves demanding more transparency.
Okay.
We need to push for open access to research data so that independent scientists can actually scrutinize the evidence behind drug approvals.
Yeah.
Remember the statin saga we were talking about? The raw data from those trials was never released.
It makes you wonder, what are they hiding?
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If a drug company is so confident in the safety and efficacy of their product, why wouldn't they just be transparent with the data?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think this lack of transparency also extends to the financial ties between pharmaceutical companies and, various players in the medical field.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of those potential conflicts of interest when we're evaluating medical recommendations.
It's almost like we need a whole new level of health literacy.
I think so.
Not just understanding our bodies, but like understanding the system that delivers the health care.
Yeah.
It's pretty overwhelming.
It can be.
Especially when you're already dealing with, some health concerns.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's tough.
But, knowledge is power.
Right.
Especially when it comes to our health.
Yeah.
It's about shifting from this passive patient role to becoming an active participant in our well-being.
So we're not just along for the ride.
No, we're in the driver's seat.
What does that look like for the average person?
Well, I think it requires open communication with our doctors.
Okay.
Asking questions, understanding the risks and benefits of different treatment options.
Yeah.
Really advocating for ourselves.
Yeah, like we're our own healthcare advocates.
Exactly. And I think that includes advocating for a more holistic approach to healthcare,
Okay.
We need to prioritize lifestyle interventions alongside these conventional treatments.
Right.
Not just default to medication as the first and only solution.
It's about looking at the whole picture.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just treating the symptom.
Yeah, think about Tony.
Right.
And his amazing recovery after he ditched the statins and embraced a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah.
His story is such a powerful reminder that we have agency in our healthcare journeys.
We have the power to make choices.
We do.
Right.
And we can make choices that empower us and support our overall well-being.
Yeah, so it's not just about taking a pill.
No.
It's about all these other factors that play into our health.
Absolutely.
And we need to be informed about all of it.
Yeah.
Right? Woody's experience with Zoloft.
Yeah.
That was just so tragic.
It was.
It really highlights the importance of informed consent.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know what we're getting into.
Yeah.
We have a right to understand all of our options, including alternatives to medication.
Absolutely. And I think this is especially important in areas where overprescription is a concern. Like, with antidepressants being prescribed for things like insomnia or anxiety.
Right.
The video highlights this case of paroxetine, where data on suicidal thoughts in young patients was allegedly concealed.
It's pretty scary to think that that kind of information could be withheld from us.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. It really makes you question, who
Yeah.
are we trusting?
It makes you realize that we need to be really vigilant advocates for our own health.
Right.
And we can't be afraid to challenge the status quo or seek out second opinions.
Yeah, exactly. And that vigilance, it also extends to being aware of how medical research is conducted and funded.
Yeah.
The video points out that most statin trials, for instance, are designed by the drug companies themselves without even including a lifestyle intervention arm for comparison.
Yeah.
So it's like the game is rigged from the start.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this bias in research can then influence how medical information is disseminated.
Right.
The video talks about how medical journals, which are supposed to be these, unbiased arbiters of scientific truth, are often reliant on pharmaceutical advertising and reprint revenue.
Yeah.
So it's like this whole cycle of influence.
Yeah, the drug companies fund.
Yeah.
The research gets published in the journals. The journals rely on the drug companies for money.
Right.
And then those same journals end up influencing medical practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It all kind of feeds back into itself.
Yeah, it's a closed loop.
Yeah.
And then you have the Vioxx scandal.
Yeah.
Where the New England Journal of Medicine made all this money from reprints of a misleading article.
Right.
While so many patients were suffering the consequences.
Yeah.
It's a huge conflict of interest.
Yeah, it is.
And if it could happen with, a prominent journal like that, what's happening in other areas of medical publishing?
Who knows, right?
Yeah, it's a little scary to think about.
It is.
Yeah.
And the video doesn't stop there either.
Okay.
It goes on to examine the financial ties between the pharmaceutical industry and the regulatory bodies that are supposed to protect us.
The regulatory bodies.
Yeah, like the MHRA in the UK.
The MHRA.
Yeah. So it stands for the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency.
Okay.
It's kind of the UK equivalent of the FDA in the US.
Okay.
And they're responsible for ensuring the safety and efficacy of medicines.
So they're the gatekeepers?
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
But here's the thing. The video reveals that the MHRA gets a staggering 86% of its funding from the pharmaceutical industry.
86%?
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, how can they possibly be impartial?
Right.
When they're getting almost all of their money from the industry they're supposed to regulate.
It's a classic case of the fox guarding the henhouse, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, and it's not unique to the UK.
Right.
The video also mentions that the FDA in the U.S. gets 65% of its funding from pharmaceutical companies.
So it's a global problem.
Yeah, it seems to be this sort of cozy relationship between powerful industries and the institutions that are supposed to hold them accountable.
It's like, who's looking out for us?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
And it just underscores the need for greater awareness and scrutiny.
Right.
We can't just assume that the system is designed to protect our best interests.
We have to be our own advocates.
I think so.
Right.
Yeah, we need to be informed, engaged, and willing to advocate for ourselves.
It feels like a lot, though,
It does, doesn't it?
Like David and Goliath.
Yeah.
What can we as individuals really do to change such a massive system?
Well, I think it's important to remember that even small actions can have a ripple effect,
Okay.
We may not be able to overhaul the entire system overnight.
Right.
But we can start by making informed choices for ourselves, demanding transparency.
Okay.
And advocating for a more holistic approach to healthcare.
Yeah. So it's about reclaiming our health and becoming informed consumers.
Yeah.
Not just passively accepting what we're told.
No.
But actively engaging in our own healthcare decisions.
Exactly. It's about shifting that power dynamic.
Yeah.
From being passive recipients of healthcare to becoming active participants in our own well-being.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about medications? If the pharmaceutical industry is so driven by profit, does that mean that we should just avoid all medications?
Well, I think it's important to remember that the video doesn't paint all medications with a broad brush.
Okay.
It acknowledges that modern medicine has made incredible strides and that pharmaceuticals have played a vital role in treating, acute illnesses and saving lives.
Right. It's not about demonizing all medications.
Exactly.
It's about being discerning.
Yeah.
Understanding that there's a time and a place for them.
Yeah.
Right.
The concern is this kind of over-reliance on medication and the potential for profit motives to kind of overshadow patient well-being. It's about finding that balance,
right,
between utilizing the power of pharmaceuticals when they're truly necessary.
Okay.
But also recognizing the importance of addressing the root causes of disease through lifestyle changes.
It's about using the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Sometimes you need a powerful drug, but sometimes you just need to change your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And Dr. Gupta is a great example of that.
He is.
His work in Mount Abu.
Yeah.
It's a really compelling model for a more holistic approach.
It is.
Yeah. His success in reversing heart disease through lifestyle interventions is really powerful.
It is.
It challenges conventional medical wisdom, which often focuses on managing disease rather than addressing the underlying causes.
Yeah. It's like he's offering a blueprint for a different way of approaching healthcare.
It's a whole different paradigm.
Yeah.
But why isn't this approach embraced by mainstream medicine?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, is it resistance to change? Is it the allure of quick fixes and the profitability of medications?
Could be.
Or is it just the powerful influence of the pharmaceutical industry?
I think it's probably a combination of all those factors.
It's a complex system.
It is.
But the video doesn't just present the problem.
No.
It also offers a path forward.
Yeah,
right?
It does.
What is that?
Well, it calls for this kind of paradigm shift in healthcare.
Okay, a paradigm shift.
Yeah, one that prioritizes prevention.
Okay.
Empowers patients.
Yeah.
And embraces a more holistic approach to well-being.
So it's about shifting the focus from treatment to prevention.
Yeah.
From pills to lifestyle, from passivity to empowerment.
Exactly.
And it's not just about individual choices.
No.
It's about creating a system that supports those choices.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We need patients to become informed advocates for their own health.
Okay.
Demanding transparency, pushing for lifestyle interventions.
Right.
We need doctors to engage in open communication with their patients. Considering all treatment options.
Right.
And really prioritizing patient well-being above all else.
Yeah, putting the patient first.
Exactly. And then we need a system that facilitates these changes,
Okay.
A system where medical research is unbiased.
Right.
Medical journals prioritize scientific integrity over financial gain.
Yeah.
And regulatory bodies are truly independent from industry influence.
It's a tall order.
It is a tall order, but it's a vision worth striving for,
I agree.
Your health is our most precious asset.
Yeah, for sure.
And it deserves a healthcare system that reflects that value.
So after going through all of this, after this deep dive, into this video's insights.
Yeah.
What's the takeaway?
Yeah, what's the big takeaway?
For our listeners.
I mean, I know we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From statins to ultra-processed foods to the influence of big pharma.
It's a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think people should be walking away with?
Well, it can feel overwhelming.
Right, for sure.
All of this, I think the core message here isn't to distrust every doctor or avoid every medication.
Right. No, it's not about that.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not black and white.
No, it's not black and white. It's about being informed.
Oh.
It's about empowerment, recognizing that you have a voice and a right to be an active participant in your healthcare decisions.
To take ownership.
Yeah, exactly. And that you have more power than you might realize.
I like that.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think it starts with just being aware,
Okay.
Being aware of this potential for bias, asking those questions.
Right.
Doing your research, not being afraid to get a second opinion.
Yeah, I love that. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion.
Yeah, why not? Get a third if something doesn't feel right.
Exactly. We should feel empowered to do that.
Absolutely.
To advocate for ourselves.
Yeah.
And another thing that, we've talked a lot about.
Yeah.
These lifestyle interventions, these are really powerful tools.
Yeah, they are.
Diet, exercise, managing your stress.
Yeah.
These aren't just like nice things to do if you have time.
Right. Yeah.
These are the fundamentals of health.
They're fundamental, yeah.
It's funny we call them lifestyle interventions,
Yeah.
But it's just life.
It is just life.
It's eating, it's moving, it's, taking care of your mental health.
Exactly. It's what we should all be doing anyway.
All right.
Whether we're trying to prevent disease or just live a good life.
Exactly.
It's about taking care of ourselves in a holistic way.
Right.
And I think sometimes the medical system loses sight of that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so focused on treating symptoms with medications, that it's neglecting the foundations of health.
Right. It's treating the Band-Aid, not the actual wound.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, think about Tony.
Yeah.
And how much he turned his health around.
Yeah, what a story.
After embracing a healthier lifestyle.
Absolutely.
You know, he's really living proof that sometimes the best medicine doesn't come from a pill bottle.
No, it comes from within.
Yeah.
It comes from taking control.
Right.
Yeah, becoming an informed advocate and demanding a system that actually prioritizes your well-being.
Your well-being as a whole.
Yeah, and recognizing that true health goes so much further than just the doctor's office.
It's everything. It's all of it.
Yeah, it's your choices. Yeah. It's your mindset. It's your environment.
It's the big picture.
It is. It's the whole picture. Yeah.
Yeah. This video is a wake-up call.
It is, yeah.
For all of us to take back our health.
Yeah.
To demand more from the system.
Absolutely.
More transparency.
Transparency.
More accountability.
Accountability, yeah.
It's about questioning the assumptions we have.
Yeah.
Being critical consumers of information.
Yeah, being informed.
And remembering that we have more power than we realize.
We do have the power.
And it's about shifting the focus.
Yeah, shifting it away from the treatment
to prevention.
To prevention.
To lifestyle.
Exactly.
From passivity to empowerment.
It's a journey.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
It's not a destination.
It's not a destination. So well said, as you continue on your own health journeys.
Yeah.
I'll leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me.
If lifestyle interventions can have such a profound impact on our health, why aren't they more widely promoted and integrated into our healthcare systems?
Yeah, it's the question, isn't it?
Talk about it with your friends, your family, your doctor.
Yeah, have those conversations.
Maybe, just maybe, we can create a world where health and well-being are truly prioritized.
Yeah, that's a world I want to live in.
Me too.
Yeah.
And that's it for this deep dive.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for having me.
Stay curious, stay informed, and stay empowered.